From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Thank you very much, Ollie Barrett. Welcome to Monday's Richie Allen Show. It's dark out there, I tell you. It's dark out there, yes. Back to Greenwich Mean Time we went. We left British summertime on Sunday morning, and it's dark now. Hope you're in good form and you're looking forward to a good week. I am Richie Allen. We are live now on multiple platforms. Tweet the programme. My Twitter handle is at Richie Allen Show. Don't think you needed even to be told that, did you?
Well, bring out the gimp.
It's the Richie Allen Show. Broadcasting live on richieallen.co.uk and multiple platforms around the world. And now, here's your host, Richie Allen.
I'll be joined in the second hour of the programme by the former US Assistant Treasury Secretary Paul Craig Roberts. It's been quite a while since Paul was on the programme. He writes daily on his website, paulcraigroberts.org. Some terrifically written articles of late there. We'll get into them. Julian Assange, the US and Russia, Syria, the Trump administration, and more with the wonderful Paul Craig Roberts in the second hour of the programme today. But before that, Victoria Haigh returns to the programme. You know all about Vicky's story. A renowned horse trainer, of course. Much more besides that. 10 years or so ago, her daughter told her that her father was sexually abusing her. The girl was taken away from Vicki and her father got sole custody of her. The 10 ensuing years have been amazing. We've had Vicki on the programme a couple of times talking about it. Lots to get into with her. She's fundraising. She was back in the UK over the weekend in London, along with many other victims of family court justice in the UK. And she's going to be talking to us about that in the first hour of the programme. Victoria Haigh is back on the Richie Allen Show, live from France. Yes, indeed, it's October 28th, Monday's programme, your Richie Allen Show, live right now. Yeah, and one Egypt got caught by the time there. Charlotte there, listening in her car, was wondering, it's 5:30, where the bloody hell is Richie Allen? You big Egypt, Charlotte. The clocks went back, love, so you got caught right out, so you did. Alrighty, I'm back. I'm still a bit under the weather, but I'm not giving into it. Not missing any live radio shows. I'm not giving in. Well. European Union leaders have agreed in principle to extend Brexit until the 31st of January 2020. Meaning that, of course, the United Kingdom will not leave as planned on Thursday. Oh, yeah. Go on, Stilla. Marvellous. That's the surprise, you see. Surprise, surprise. Yes. Not much of a surprise, really. We knew. What do you think, Kay? We're not leaving the European Union?
Fabulous.
It's all good.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Of course we're not going anywhere. You hear that, Tom? You hear that? There's another extension until next year?
No. Could you repeat it? Because I can't believe my fucking ears.
Yeah, there's no leaving, Tom. We're not going anywhere. European Union Council President Donald Tusk said it was a flextension. That's the term he used, flextension, meaning that the UK could leave before the deadline if a deal was approved by Parliament. The EU Council President, Mr. Tusk, asked Brangelina and Benifer for permission to impose the flextension, but Kimye and Billary are not sure. If we all agree to the flextension, then we can have a staycation from Brexit. Who the fuck is responsible for this trend of merging two existing words? Who came up with this? Trivialising not only our bloody language, but these massive issues as well. That's why they do it, you know. That's why they do it, to trivialise and to dumb down flextension, my big old hairy arse. What's going on? Anyway, MPs prepared to vote on proposals by Johnson, the Prime Minister, for an early general election on December 12th. Now, they might vote on this evening, and it might even happen when I'm having a chat with Paul Craig Roberts later on. What's going on? The Scottish National Party and the Lib Dems have proposed we have an election on December 9th. Now, No Brexit. Surprise, surprise. So there might be an election before Christmas. The Labour Party are not interested because the polling shows them to be in a pretty bad place, a very dark place. So we'll have to see later on what happens. Remember, Johnson said repeatedly, I would die in a ditch. We would leave on October 31st, with or without a deal. But he's blaming the Ben Act, which was passed by Parliament, which requires him to accept the European Union's extension. I told you! I told you. And the Irish know about this more than anybody. We know this better than anyone. Twice we told the European Union to jog on. That's what we said. Araig, lat, araig live. Be gone. Twice we told them. We rejected the Nice and Lisbon treaties because we saw where they led, where they would lead. We saw the increase of authority of the European Union, more and more integration. We saw that. Loss of sovereignty. But we were told to go back. Go back. Get back to where you once began. And vote again. Go back, you paddy bastards. Back to the polling booths and say yes this time. Do you know what we did? Well, we just didn't turn up in so many numbers. And the European Union treaties were passed. And now, vassalage. Our government, the Merry Indian and his pals, they can't make a move without European Union say so. Leo Varadkar can't take a shit without authorization from Brussels. And as I have said before, the Germans, Michael Shrimpton, I'm channeling Shrimpton, the Germans, come into town, representing the ECB, the IMF and the EU and the BBC and the BBBB, right? They come in, the Germans, and they sign off on our spending plans. Imagine for hundreds of years, my people, it's my island, I tell you. My people fought off the Brits, the British Crown. We fought off enforced starvation, the famine. They couldn't subjugate us. The Irish, they couldn't. You'll never beat the Irish. They couldn't. The Crown, with all of that Rothschild money behind it. No, they couldn't stop the Irish. So imagine what Robert Emmet would say today. Imagine what Lily Kempston would say. Imagine what Anne Devlin would say. I bet you never heard of Lily Kempston and Anne Devlin, by the way. Eh? You heathens. Go and learn a bit of history. Imagine what Michael Collins would say. Imagine what James Connolly, born in Scotland but one of us, would say. Imagine what Constance Markovich would say, born in London but grew up in Ireland, Irish to the bone. Imagine fighting off the Crown for centuries, those people. Sick. And you thought the UK would leave. Anyway, excuse me, I'm still full of cold. Boris wants an election and he might get one. There's a vote after 6 o'clock later on. And we'll have re-raw August Rully-Bully. We'll have all the fun in the world and mayhem and madness if there is an election. What about Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi then? Apparently he died running down a hallway, whimpering and crying. This is according to Donald Trump now. That truth teller told the world yesterday, we caught Baghdadi. That's, of course, the acclaimed leader of Islamic State, the man. Apparently he's dead. But the problem is, well, the many deaths of Bakr, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. Because apparently he's died very many times. So many times, you could say the fall and rise of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. That's his name, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, yeah. And he's died many times and come back. Apparently he died on the 18th of March 2015 because of a coalition airstrike in the al-Baghdadi district near the Syrian border. His wounds were apparently so bad that ISIL leaders had a replacement ready to go, basically. He died 2015. Then he died again in 2016. In fact, he died again in late 2015, but he died in 2016 when there was a US airstrike in northern Iraq. He was killed. Multiple agencies said he died. But he keeps coming back, just like Reginald Perrin. And then he died in 2017, apparently. He was killed in another airstrike. Again, multiple agencies reporting it, and he died in 2017 again, later on that year. And he died again in 2018. He's died many times. So it's hard to know what is true and what isn't true. Anyway, we should be very afraid of reprisals from terrorists and sleeper cells. Is there a sleeper cell next door to you? Is there? Is there? I've been knocking on doors today in Salford. Knocking on doors. Did you do it? Are you in ISIS? Most people just slam the door in my face and say, fuck off, Paddy. Did you do it? So we should be careful. Here's Sky News' Deborah Haynes talking about what intelligence agencies in the UK plan in the wake of possible reprisals for the extrajudicial execution of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. Deborah Haynes.
Yes, well, I understand that British security officials are increasing the monitoring of high-profile Islamist extremist suspects in the UK in the wake of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi's death. This is precautionary. It's the kind of action that they take in the wake of any terrorist attack or some kind of spectacular incident, because there's a concern that it could trigger reprisals or copycat attacks. Now, this is what happened in the wake of the Christchurch massacre back in March, if you remember. That was when a suspected right-wing extremist killed dozens of worshippers at 2 mosques. In the wake of that attack, monitoring was increased on suspects, right-wing suspects and Islamist suspects in the UK. So it's understandable that in the wake of such a significant moment for Islamic State, the death of its leader, that you would see the security services and the police stepping up monitoring of the highest value or high priority extremist suspects in the UK. That's not to say that there is a specific threat or a specific intelligence of a threat. It's precautionary action in case the death of Baghdadi does spur somebody to carry out some kind of attack. And it's interesting, this isn't just precautions being taken here in the UK. In Syria, Kurdish forces are increasing guards at the detention camps in northeast Syria, where you have thousands of IS supporters detained in camps, and also IS suspects detained in actual prisons. And that is because there is serious concern that the death of Baghdadi could trigger riots, could trigger some kind of reprisal attack.
Yes, be afraid, be very afraid. Well, there wasn't any attack on any Islamic State leader before the 22nd of May 2017 attack at Manchester Arena, which killed 22 people. Oh, that numerology, eh? Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. They didn't kill him on Saturday night. He's been dead a long time. I like this guy, Labour MP Peter Kyle. I like him. He's been joking about social media trolling. Peter has dyslexia. Acute dyslexia, which means when he tweets, he sometimes misspells words. That's fair enough, I do it. Not sure I have dyslexia, but I do it occasionally. And he's been joking about social media users going easy on him because he often gets called thick. But he's not a snowflake. I like the guy. He said the platform, Twitter, can be an unforgiving place for people with unseen challenges. But he's got a bit of a wry sense of humour, bit of a spry sense of humour, you might say. He's an MP for Hove and Portslade. He's our hero of the day. He was elected in 2015. He said, I get picked up on my tweets all the time. Mostly it's kindly or humorous, but sometimes it's sneering or brutal. But he's not calling for any banning of anybody who's being brutal. He just jokes with them. He suggests that they refer to him in future as Dr. Thick, because he went on to get a PhD at university despite his dyslexia. Good man. No meltdown. He has a thick skin. He didn't take the opportunity to create a new vulnerable group, the dyslexics. Yeah, the dyslexics. I like that guy. He's having a good laugh. He doesn't ban people who call him names. He just laughs and engages with them. Good man. He's the hero of the day. Another big story that I covered on the newspaper review things this morning, which I won't get into now, but I might get into in the week, and that is the NHS and UK health bosses in general have decided to ramp up the heat, can I say that, on homeopathic medicine in the UK. But not only homeopathic medicine, homeopathic practitioners. I don't like this one bit. They've even quoted today the newspapers the CEO of the NHS, a guy called Simon Stevens, the chief executive, saying that it's a vital issue to look at homeopaths when there is a rise of misinformation about vaccines, some of which is apparently promoted by homeopaths and which poses a significant danger to human health. Big story that. Won't get into it today because I don't have lots of time to get into it, don't you know. I'll be back with you in 60 seconds. Don't go anywhere. This is Monday's Richie Allen Show.
Renowned healer Mark Bayersky travels the world to find the most unique and powerful crystals for self-healing. Since the ancient times, crystals have been used as healing tools. They hold a natural healing vibration and are highly charged in positive energy. Mark teaches how to channel the universal energy and transfer it to the crystal to activate its healing power. Each crystal is used for its unique ability to target a different physical or emotional challenge. Mark Bayersky is an author, healer, speaker, and founder of the Pure Energy Healing Academy. He shares powerful messages of inspiration and healing on his daily YouTube videos, reaching millions worldwide. Mark's crystals, healing oils, and incense sticks are most sought after by other healers. His collection is available online at www.markbayersky.com. His work is presented through Lemon House, a company that creates and curates consciously made gifts.
Right, now I know a number of you will have things you want to say to Victoria Haigh, so do tweet the programme. Vicky will be with me in a couple of minutes. It's at Richie Allen Show on Twitter. It's at Richie Allen Show on Twitter. Victoria Haigh joins me. Don't forget Paul Craig Roberts returns to the programme. It's been quite a while since Paul was on. He'll be on with me in the second hour, and lots to talk about with Paul as well. Alright, yes, it's Monday's programme. Your Richie Allen Show, the most listened to independent radio show in Europe. Welcome to it. Good to be with you. October 28th, Lenny Kravitz. Lenny Kravitz on the Richie Allen Show. The time is now 22 and a half minutes past the hour. Let's just get right into it then. My first guest, is a bona fide heroine. She really is. You know her story. It's been covered in the national press in this country, television and radio. 10 or so years ago, her daughter told her that her father had been sexually abusing her. Amazingly, the young girl was taken away from mum and dad got sole custody. It is true, this. Mum was accused of coaching the girl and being emotionally abusive. She was banned from seeing her, and sometime later even was sentenced to 3 years in prison for breaching a no-contact order. This came about because she genuinely accidentally bumped into her daughter at a service station. She moved to France, rebuilt her life with her youngest daughter. She restarted her career as a horse trainer. She is a horse trainer of great renown, but has never ever given up and never stopped fighting for the truth to come out about what really happened and to be reunited with her family. When she was on with this back in the summer of this year, she told us about bombshell information, real bombshell information, that her ex-husband had been banned by UK athletics for grooming a minor, and she was never told about that. She was in the UK this weekend in London with many other people who have been affected by what is a travesty. It would be in any period of time. The UK family court system is a travesty. It's outrageous, it's secret, it's sinister, and it results in my opinion, in thousands of children being taken away from their mothers and their fathers for spurious reasons. Let's welcome back to the programme to talk about the weekend and to talk about her fundraising as she carries on her own fight for justice. Back on the programme, it's Victoria Haigh. Vicky, lovely to have you back on the programme. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Yeah, hello everybody. There's a few mothers listening in tonight that I met over the weekend, so say hello to Ellie, Samantha, and the rest of you. Yeah, it was quite emotionally draining, as you can imagine, because there was a lot of emotion at that protest, and the amount of women that just came up to me crying their eyes out, you know, holding my hand, not because they felt sorry for me. It's because they were going through the same thing. They'd lost their child. So, you know, when I spoke, you know, I mean, my tears stopped many years ago because I was just crying all the time, and I knew that if I couldn't do anything if I carried on crying. The tears didn't help, you know. So I said to myself one day, these tears, they have to stop. You know, you know what's happened. You can't just keep crying all the time. But these women, they're crying, you know. People think I'm really strong, but you know, when I read my speech to myself in my apartment before I went to London, I couldn't finish it. You know, because when I think of my daughter, I just can't speak. So to get through the speech, I mean, all my friends, they said they didn't know how I did it because they just read my speech and was crying. But you know, we're dealing with criminals that don't give a shit, and we have to almost be as sick as them to beat them. You know, because one social worker said to me one day, and I will never forget it. She said, "We like to see you cry." And I sat there and I thought, why do they like to see me crying? Because crying is a sign of weakness. So they know that as long as you're crying, they can control you. So you know, that's why I had to stop crying.
A very powerful speech you gave at the weekend, and you said there that there were lots of other women there. There were some men there as well. Remind our listeners, why were you there? What was the point of the demonstration at the weekend?
Well, there's so many women losing their children and being murdered, and their children are being murdered because of the family courts. And because of this domestic abuse bill that they're putting through, Natalie Page, a woman based in Wales, her Twitter is "The Court Said," got this protest going. And honestly, it was brilliant. I said at the start of my speech, I spoke in London about 2.5 years ago for Samantha Baldwin, and there was, you know, 5 people there in front of me, all crying, by the way, but there was 5 people. On Saturday, there was more than 300, and the banners and everything, it looked so professional, and people were walking past and stopping and listening to these stories, you know. And it was very heart-wrenching, because there was I mean, I'm a victim, of course I'm a victim, but I'm also quite a seasoned campaigner as well.
Do us a favour, Vicky, do us a favour, it's important. We've got plenty of time as always, but there will be people, there will genuinely be people listening to this tonight, and they won't have a clue. They were like, what's this about? This woman, and her daughter was sexually abused, and she ended up estranged from the daughter. So I could never tell you to leave your story to one side. I would never say that. But just for a few minutes, give us a general flavour, without being specific about one particular case, of what has been going on. Educate our listeners tonight. What is happening? What is the family court system? What's going on?
Okay. A lot of things are going on in the family court. The women are being scalped, basically. The women that walk into a family court, as I said in my speech, it's like walking into a gas chamber. You lose your children, you lose your job, you lose your family, you lose your health, you lose your voice. They just strip you of everything. Samantha Baldwin, she had her own house fully paid for. That's gone. You know, she lost her 2 boys. So it's gangs. It's a family court. It's a state system. It's the judiciary. But actually, it's a criminal gang, raping and pillaging women, mainly women. It's very biased against women, and I think the reason for that is because we're soft targets.
Now, why? Now, hang on. This is really important. So, mum, being honest, is told by baby or child or young girl or young boy, mum is told, mummy, daddy has been doing this, or daddy has been doing that. Horrendous situation for any mother to be in. Who could imagine it? You know, because you've been there. Samantha, whom I know very well and I've all the time in the world for, an amazing lady, has been there and is going through it. You do the right thing. You've got to confront it. What happens then? Our listeners will be like, well, how does it end up then with mum never seen But at least in the interim period, please God, you will be reunited again, and please God, Samantha will get back with her boys again. How does it happen that you're told, sorry, no, you can't? In your case, you were told you were coaching the kids. And you know, when I looked into this when we first spoke, I couldn't believe how many cases I came across. And I thought to myself, they can't all be coaching the children. So what's happening?
Well, what's happening? One of the main things is patriarchy. You know, the men are absolutely grasping onto what they can, and so they're upholding male entitlement. And it's still like the Dark Ages. A woman and a child is a man's property. It's his chattel. And that's how this system is still being run. I mean, it's absolutely incredible that they're still getting away with it, and that it's taken so long for it to now start coming out. And it is now coming out into the mainstream media with Geraldine McKelvey. She writes for the Sunday Mirror, and Liz Perkin writes for the Daily Express. They've both got these protests. You know, they're exposing a lot now. The gagging orders is terrible because
the secrecy. The secrecy is important.
I mean, I said to Geraldine, she's putting an FOI for the amount of women that get sent to prison, breaching gagging orders and non-molestation orders, breaching orders, and the amount of men. Well, we know that they jump straight onto the women. Anna Cornus, she was all due to go to the protest on Saturday. Friday night, the police turned up, took her into custody because she spoke to her daughter a few weeks ago, who is, I think, about 15 years old. Her daughter's desperate to see her mummy. And because they spoke to each other, the mum ends up in custody. Again, she's been in prison 4 times, one for 6 months with no trial, in the high security prison in Durham
for breaching for breaching a non-contact order, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so these men are controlling everything. They just ring the police. You know, they won't let the children see their mother. When the mother tries to see their child and speaks to their child who wants to see them, the man rings the police and the women get arrested, and then off they go. Now she's got a tag on her.
Now with respect to that case, now we don't know anything about that. Now you might do, but I know nothing about it, and I'm mindful that I certainly shouldn't allow any discussion of anybody else's case, because it could get me and you into a lot of trouble. I don't know anything about it, but I hear what you're saying and I hear where you're going. The system is oppressive in terms of it favours, you mentioned patriarchy, it favours men, and it's a horrendous system for women to be caught up in. The secrecy, of course, of the family courts, evidence being presented even against mothers, which the mother wouldn't have gotten a look at prior to the hearing. This is something I couldn't believe until I discovered it for myself. Evidence being given to a judge about you, Vicky, or about Samantha, or about somebody else, and you don't get to see it, so you can't contest it. So you can't.
Well,
hang on a second.
I managed to get hold of all the court notes last year that the barristers were shoving to the judge, and you know, even after I told them that is false, they said that I'd been imprisoned for attempted kidnap of my child. Even after I kept telling them, you need to take that out, you know, at the next court hearing, it was still there. It was still there. And the judge looks at these court notes from these barristers, and that's gospel. But anyway, saying that about judges, the judge last year, Judge Carr in Sheffield, there was 2 other mothers there. Well, one was there, one contacted me after. The same judge, Judge Carr in Sheffield, took both their children from 2 different mothers in the same court, same case, same story as mine. So, you know, these judges, the judges need to be held accountable as well. You know, they're just running along with the same system, gagging everybody that comes in their way.
What should happen, Vicky? What should happen? This is hugely important. Victoria Haigh is our guest. I want to get to the nub of this. What should happen? Right. I'm with Caroline. She often gets a mention on the programme. My Caroline, the future Mrs. Allen. 17 years we've been together. We don't have any children. Please God, in the future. Please God. Now, we don't have. If we did have, and Caroline makes an allegation against me because our son or daughter says that I've behaved inappropriately. What should happen? I mean, I like to think of myself as a reasonably intelligent bloke, But I can't imagine what should happen next. What should happen? Who should interview the child to determine whether there's any accuracy to what was said or not?
Well, the big problem is the family court itself, because it's dysfunctional. It's been run now by a gang of criminals, with all their forced adoption and disempowering women and using children as a commodity. That needs binning. Those doors need closing. It needs moving to a civil court, because in a family court, everybody's blackmailed. All these mothers are blackmailed. They're blackmailed. That's not law. That's unlawful. You would never get blackmail like you're getting in family court. In a civil court, you need more than one judge. You need a jury. And then you've got your evidence. You've got all your disclosure. Family court, I was shoving the law, shoving my bundle down the throat of the judge, and she was ignoring it. That would never happen in front of a jury in a civil court with more than one judge.
You're talking now about the industry, because your case, Samantha's case, and some of the other cases I've looked at were to do with allegations of sexual abuse. But there are tens of thousands of cases where mums lose access to children for things as vague as risk of future emotional harm, or because mum has had a boyfriend that social services deem to be a risk to the child or whatever. And there are thousands. And you believe, because you and I have had this out before, you think that this is, and I know Ian Joseph in France has been on the programme talking about this, very learned man, Christopher Booker, rest in peace, who had the courage to write about this for the Telegraph newspaper, but who passed away a few months ago. They believe, Sharon Gale, by the way, another amazing woman and a friend of mine as well, has been on tonight. She's listening to this with great interest. They believe that it's an industry. It's £1 billion a year industry. It's worth hundreds of millions to adoption agencies, to companies like Barnardo's, and to local authorities. And you're convinced of that?
Well, yeah, of course it is, because the judges are just rolling over. Their biggest client are all the local authorities, so they make their money by the business that the local authorities bring in front of them. So they're not going to oppose the local authorities, because that's their bread and butter. That's their gravy train. The local authorities are getting care orders on children. And the scam, because they can pull funds from central government on every care order they get. So they can fill their coffers, because they're all in financial hell. So they're using, every child has a ticket on its head. Like my daughter, I didn't know what the hell was going on. It was private proceedings in a family court, and it got switched really quickly into public proceedings. And they said to me, "Oh, don't worry, we've taken over. You won't have any legal costs now, blah, blah, blah." And what they did is they knew they were going to get a care order on my daughter, you see. So that was going to bring in thousands of pounds a month. They had to take my child away from me to get that care order.
See, this is shocking. This is shocking. Your daughter says, "Mum, Daddy has been behaving like this. He's been doing these things to me." You do what any mother should do, and you report it. And this is what people won't understand. Help us out with this, Vicky, because this is hugely important for people to understand. At that stage, the local authority gets involved very quickly, doesn't it?
Yes,
but it shouldn't do, though. It should be an independent matter for the police. They should have nothing to do with it. That's what I'm trying to get my head round.
Well, yeah, but the police don't do anything, because they just can't be asked. So they just don't. I mean, my daughter's file, even though I've had it in writing by superintendents that they'd given my daughter's file to the CPS, they never did. So they just said, "Oh, well, we'll just leave it to the family court. They can decide." And I'm like, hold on. Yeah. They said, "Oh, well, because, criminal level, it's beyond all reasonable doubt. In a family court, it's balance of probability, But, I mean, it's a crime against a child, rape and sexual abuse and sexual assault. So it should be in a criminal court."
You're brilliant. You've just explained it, because a lot of our listeners are like, "What the hell is going on here? How does that happen?" You've explained it brilliantly. This is the problem. This is the nub of it. When Victoria's daughter said this is happening, it should have been investigated by the police. It should not be passed back to the local authority the social services and ultimately the family court. It's shocking. It's a crime, like you said. It's an allegation of a crime, one of the most serious crimes. So it should be investigated. Now, what about those listeners who are listening, who are saying, right, I hear you, Vicky. I hear you loud and clear. It should be investigated by the police. But in the meantime, what should happen to daughter? Now, I would say, of course, daughter should stay with the mum. And in the short term where the investigation is taking place, dad should be told, listen, serious allegation has been made. You can't see daughter until we get to the bottom of this. That's what I would say. I suppose that's what you would say as well.
That's what happens. All contact with the father is stopped until further investigation. But then you see that they're very clever, these men, because these very abusive men know the system inside out. It's like the gangs of paedophiles. They all share information, and father's rights has a lot to do with it. That's been infiltrated, in my opinion, by paedophile fathers. So they all know how to work the system. The more they abuse, the contact stops, but then they keep applying for contact. They keep applying to the family court for contact, and they get it. And you'd be surprised how quickly the contact goes into overnight, unsupervised stay with the father. And then the abuse starts again. And so then the child keeps disclosing abuse, and the mother's tearing her hair out by this stage because she's now got a court order that says her child has to go to this man overnight, and then the child's coming back with more disclosures on what her daddy's done to her, and then the mother rings social services, the mother goes to the doctors with the child, and then it's all switched, and now the mother is disobeying court orders, and she's abusing her own child by taking her for all these medicals, and she's disrupting contact, and she's trying to alienate the child, blah, blah, blah. And then it switches. So then we don't understand.
So when a mum or a dad makes an allegation based on the word of a child, it looks like, and I have had social workers email the programme before and say, it's unfair, Richie, we get portrayed very badly. And I've said, well, listen, come on the programme, I'll disguise your voice or whatever. And they say no. But you look, there are occasions when children need to be taken out of homes, violence, drugs or whatever. We understand that. And there are social workers who undoubtedly probably get up every morning looking to do the right thing. But what Victoria Haigh is saying here today, and she's backed this up in the past, as has Sharon Gale, who's tweeting about this today, and others. When the allegation is made, it seems like the industry then immediately kind of clicks into motion. Here is an opportunity to take a child and place it, and there's a lot of money involved there. That's what it seems to me, because
but that's one of the agendas.
That's one of the agendas, yeah.
And to uphold male entitlement, they use the child as a commodity. The agenda in family court, I said in my speech on Saturday, there's three things. Number one, uphold male entitlement. Number two, use children as a commodity. And number three, disempower any mother who takes this system on, like I did. These women are being scalped. They're losing everything, everything. They're losing everything. And a lot of these women are losing their lives. Their children are being murdered as well, and all the stories are coming out now. And it's a really great time for me, because the mainstream media are now publishing it. And that's great, because it took me years and years. I've been working with Geraldine McKelvey, and giving her a lot of cases, and it's great that it's all coming out, because and I know how difficult it is to take the system on in the mainstream media. There's a certain amount of things that they just won't touch.
And this is one of them, yeah. This issue is one of them. Let me read a couple of tweets. Sharon tweeted, "What is worse now is that all proceedings have to be concluded within 26 weeks of social services opening a case. Often this is not enough time for parents to even come to terms with their child being taken." And Paul tweets that there's another side to it, and by the other side he means that it happens to men too. My experience of the family court is totally different to the one being discussed with Vicki. In fact, it was the absolute opposite, and it was my wife who held all the cards. It was a private family matter, but I felt as a man that I had no parental rights. That's Paul tweeting there. Victoria Haigh is our guest, speaking in London. Very high profile case. Vicky's case is hugely high profile. 10 years ago, her daughter taken away after the child told Vicky that he was sexually abusing her. Incredibly, Vicky lost access to her daughter, and her dad got sole custody of her. Vicky was accused of coaching the girl. She was banned from seeing her. Ended up being sentenced to 3 years in prison, amazingly, for breaching this no contact order. It's an amazing story, and it's true. She moved to France, rebuilt her life, hasn't given up, as I said, on this. And we talked in July about an extraordinary development in your story, and that was that the man whom your daughter, her father, she'd made an allegation against him. You learned that he had been banned for life by UK Athletics for grooming a minor. And this is bombshell stuff when you told me this in the summer. And this information was kept away from you.
Yeah, it was, and it shouldn't have been, because I had parental responsibility of my daughter. That's probably why my GoFundMe page hopefully will work. If all your listeners just chip in, the case I've got against the Ministry of Justice is wrongful imprisonment. That's the tort of law. And there's obviously a misconduct in public office case against Doncaster Local Authority. All the shenanigans that they were up to last year was, I just can't believe it.
Just be careful, because if you've got a case against these people, as I know you are pursuing, just be very careful what you say here. That's all I'm saying to you. I'm not telling you what to say.
That's all I need to say. But listen, I'm pretty sure they think they probably get that I'm going to, what, am I just going to leave them there to carry on as they are? Or, I've been fighting all these years. They've had me in a family court, so they've had their way in a family court. So let's get back into court.
Let me ask you this. I'm going to put a link out to the GoFundMe page, and I'm going to talk more about the GoFundMe page in a minute. Let me ask you this. This might get your heckles up, but so what? I've known you long enough now. You'll understand me asking the question. Has there not been issues over the years with marriages breaking down? And I'm not saying that's your situation or your case. Your case is different. But has there not been occasions when one or other of the couple has made false allegations against the other parent? Has that not gone on?
Well, I think probably, I don't know, to be honest. I think breaking up with somebody when you've got children is so difficult. And I've got a lot of girlfriends that are going through divorces and things now. And, in the beginning, it's like war. But after a while, it settles down, and then they just both want to get on with their lives and bring up the child as best they both can. So there is a lot of bitterness in the beginning, I'm sure. But, then they, it all, like I say, it all calms down. I've got one friend, he was trying to do this, that and the other. And then he just said, okay, she was fighting back. Okay, let's just try and settle, and let's just move on with our lives. They meet other people and they just want to get on with it. But I don't know, that there's, from what I've seen and from Saturday, there seems to be a lot of violent men out there. There does seem to be a lot of domestic violence, more than I ever imagined, really. And I suppose that these women aren't being protected. And there was one girl that spoke on Saturday. I mean, her story, it was so scared. She was very, very scared. They said, she could have a screen in the courtroom, but going into court, they shared the same steps to go up. Then they shared the same waiting room. They shared, the same this and this. She was really scared of this man. So these men have a lot of power to intimidate these women, and I don't think these women are being protected. I mean, at the end of the day, most men are a lot stronger than most women.
Yeah.
And it must be terrible to feel very frightened every day of your life, thinking you're going to be murdered. You know, and when these women are saying to the police, we're in fear of our lives, that nothing's happening, you know.
They're not doing anything about it. Or they're kind of farming it off to the local authority. The thing about the family court setup, which is, it's not so much exasperating as it is maddening. It's maddening to me, is that these hearings are held in camera or in private, and the minutes, not the minutes, but the notes or the transcripts are not made available to anybody. There's no journalists allowed in. The public are not allowed to hear it. There are no juries, as you described earlier on. And when you think that one of the most serious things that the state can do is deprive somebody of their liberty. And because of that, putting somebody in prison is the most serious thing the state can do. Because of that, we have the jury system. We have the 12 peers who listen to that. Equally as serious is taking a child away from a loving parent and keeping those proceedings secret, but also presenting evidence in those proceedings that the accused or the parent who is at risk of losing their child, they're not getting any access to. It's astonishing. It really is kind of Nazi Germany type stuff, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it is. I mean, I was saying on Saturday that when you walk through those doors of that family court as a mother trying to protect your child, you might as well be walking into a gas chamber, because that is what it's like. You're attacked from every angle, and I mean, it's just so awful. And if you cry, you're over emotional. If you don't cry, you're hard, you know, and have no heart. I mean, whatever you do, you can't win. They have got a list. Whatever you try and do, they've got an answer. And you know, I've been speaking to one mother who's got this judge that I mentioned earlier, and they love to use these psychological assessments, which is a complete scam.
Jesus,
you know, and these mothers that don't know, they say, oh, well, I'm happy now because I'm going to have a psychological assessment. And I'm like, no, you shouldn't be happy. Don't go anywhere near these people, because they're on the take as well. That's another part of the feeding trough for the corruption. You know, the psychologists just write what the local authorities want them to write, and then, you know,
charge a fee too. Yeah.
You must have heard that before, Richard. The scam. You know, I can remember John Hemming, Annie, and Joseph. They'd investigated these psychologists, and a lot of these women didn't even meet these psychologists, and they'd written the report. And it was just like they photocopied it and just put this name in. And I can remember even Christopher Booker writing about one of them, and they put he instead of she, or, you know, they just literally printed it off and shoved it in, the same as what they'd used the last time, and got thousands for it, you know. It's
that's very important that people understand what's just been said there. I know they understood you perfectly. Your English is perfect. You're a great speaker. I'm not saying they couldn't understand you, but yes, evidence has emerged over the years that psychologists are writing reports about people that they haven't even met, about families they haven't even met, and presenting a nice fat fee then to the system, to the family court system for their testimony. There's evidence of that. There are about 12 million children in the country, and amazingly, nearly 75,000 of them are in care. That's 1.5% and rising, or thereabouts. I'm guessing my mathematics isn't brilliant. I've not Googled that. I know from talking about this, 12 million children in care. 12 million children and 75,000 or thereabouts in care. That screams there's something very, very wrong. How could 75,000 people need to be under child protection care orders?
Hold on. We need to change the word you're using here. Child protection care. In the child trafficking industry. Come on. I mean,
fair enough. That's establishment. That's establishment narrative. My apologies. You're absolutely right. I'll call it what it is. In the child kidnapping industry, there are 75,000 children currently. But you and I will know that some of those children desperately needed to be taken out of that situation. But the thing that really concerns me is how many of them go missing in care.
Well,
And it's over 10,000 a year that go missing, that nobody has any idea where they are. 10,000.
I think I think that people have had a flavour of what's been happening to these children in care with all these Asian gangs, because all that has been coming out into the press, with Telford and Rotherham and the Rochdale. That these men have been targeting these young girls in care and kidnapping them out of care. And they're supposed to be in care, but nobody can find them, and they're being trafficked all over the place. So that's not a care system that's working. And these social workers have been telling the parents of these poor young girls that have been stolen and trafficked that was a lifestyle choice that their 11-year-old daughter made. I mean, it's just so horrendous. And that was all politically based, all the Asian gangs.
Of course it was. We know the Home Office told them in Rotherham not to investigate. We know that.
Well, it's Labour and then Telford Labour, and it was all they wanted votes. It was all vote catching. So they left all these guys alone to catch the votes. I mean, that is just so horrific for a country. Democracy. I mean, come on.
But Prince Charles was an avowed and confirmed best friend of Jimmy Savile. We've got Prince Andrew, who was happy to be in the company of a convicted paedophile. He knew Epstein was a paedophile. He knew all about him. What I'm saying is, child abuse seems to have been normalised in this country by the media and by the establishment. It's all right, it's all right being friends with a paedophile. Nobody's going to tell me that Prince Charles wasn't made aware by royal protection officers that Jimmy Savile was abusing children. Nobody's going to tell me that. No, I'm not saying that Prince Charles abused anybody. I'm not saying that at all, but he had no problem with it. Is he, Jimmy? Is he? Yeah, he's all right though, Jimmy. It's been normalised in this country, hasn't it?
Well, I just think that all roads lead to child abuse. Whatever is wrong with every system, it all seems to lead to child abuse for some strange reason.
Yeah, it does. It does. And I know that our mutual friend, the former police officer, John, was at the event on Saturday, and I know he was speaking, and he's spoken eloquently on this programme. Let me, just before we do end up running out of time, we'll revisit this again and again and again as we go forward. Anyway, excuse me, I'm dying with a sore throat here, I can barely speak. Tell me about the GoFundMe. It's on GoFundMe, the website. I'll tweet a link to it now. What's it called? And remind us why you're campaigning to raise this money.
Well, it's Victoria Haigh GoFundMe. Well, it's just really to get the case all organised for the barrister. So, I've got about 5,000 pages of papers. In my case, it's gone on and on and on. So it's just really to organise the case, because barristers prefer you don't walk in with carrier bags full of papers. If they're going to take the case on, and I've got one particular very high profile person, don't want to give too much away, that wants the case. So the money is I need to raise so that all the case can be prepared properly with all the laws, all the breaches, all the everything that's gone on. And there you go. So the person can just look at it and know where to start. It's a bit like me as a racehorse trainer. If somebody sent me a horse out of a field that had never even been led down in a head collar, for me as a professional racehorse trainer, that's too much work for me to do. I prefer a horse to come to me that's already been ridden, that's cantering along the gallops quite nicely in a straight line, preferably upsides another. And then I can work properly on that. If somebody brings a horse out of a field and puts it in my stable, it's like, oh my God, where do I start with this? I don't have the time. I don't have the. So it's really preparing the case to put on the desk of the barrister so that she knows, exactly what she's going to do with it.
It needs to blow right open, this, really. It's good that the Express, I think you mentioned the Express, is taking an interest in it. and hopefully that will endure. We had in the past people like Sue Reid for a while tried to get this into the public domain. We mentioned Christopher Booker. It's hugely important because we've only scratched the surface. It's happening not just because of abuse, but abuse is a lot of it. I'm accepting that. It's happening to a lot of women when they report abuse, but it's also happening to thousands of people because they are told that there might be some risk to their child, or they might, in the future, they might cause some harm to their son or to their daughter. And it is £1 billion a year industry. But I hear Victoria Haigh loud and clear. Sexual abuse has a lot to do with this, and child trafficking, particularly because thousands of children go missing every year. If you don't believe me, go onto a search engine and put in those search terms. You'll get the stories. Thousands go missing. Where do they end up? What happens to them? This is the bloody question, you know. Where are they? So yeah, it's been good having you back on again. I'll always talk about it. You know, I've said before, one of the difficult things to do is not to do, because it's a privilege to meet people like you and others. But one of the difficult things for me is, despite this having a pretty hefty global audience, the fact is it's a drop in the ocean compared to ITV, BBC, Channel 4, and these bloody organisations, these so-called journalistic platforms. They have to talk about this stuff because it's a national scandal. I'll give you the final word, Vicky, and I have tweeted the GoFundMe page. I've just done that. Final word to you, and I wish you the very best. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to say, I think my case will set a precedent, and I think a lot of other women can follow, you know, and I think we can really change things so that this is not going to happen to our children. Because as I said on Saturday, I want my little girls to be able to have their babies, bring them up in peace. If we don't do something now, the same's going to be happening to them. So, you know, that's why I've been campaigning for as long as I have, because it needs to change. It can't go on like this. So that's what I'd like to say. So, yeah, let's get this show on the road, as they say.
Great stuff, Vicky. Congratulations on the event on Saturday. It was very, very well attended. I've put links out to where people can watch the speeches on Facebook. And I hope that people will contribute to the campaign on GoFundMe. And I hope you proceed with it, and I hope you do get your day in court. And I look forward to talking to you when it's all over and when you're reunited with your daughter, as I have no doubt you will be, Vicky. So thanks very much.
Yeah, I think I will be. She's going to be 16 next month. It's been 10 years. She was taken when she was 6. So, hi, Romany. Mummy's here.
Brilliant stuff, Vicky. Thanks very much. We'll speak again, no doubt. Bye for now. Yeah, Victoria Haigh there, live on the line to us from France, and I know that affects a lot of people, and I know there are mothers tuning in tonight, some for the first time to hear Victoria speak. It's an issue that I've covered a lot in the last few years. Terrific people like Emma Ibbitson, of course. I've not heard from Emma for a long time. Sharon Gale, I mentioned Sharon. Samantha Baldwin, whom I've met a few times, and I will meet again, hopefully, an amazing lady as well, all going through this. Time is coming up for 3 minutes past the hour. We'll take headlines, I think, for a few seconds. We'll take headlines, because God only knows. I've been listening to Victoria. I've not been checking or listening to what's been happening in terms of Westminster. There might be a vote real soon as to whether or not there will be an election this side of Christmas. I'll be keeping an eye on it for you. In fact, while we're hearing the headlines, we'll have a look. Headlines from FSN back in a second.
From Feature Story News, I'm Natalie Powell with your latest world news. Argentina's centre-left opposition candidate Alberto Fernandez has been elected as the country's president, beating incumbent Mauricio Marci. A state of emergency has been declared in California as thousands of people have been forced from their homes by wildfires. And Germany's far-right Alternative for Germany party has received a major boost in a regional election.
Yeah. That's right, populism they're calling it in Germany, as the far right did very well in regional elections there. We're about 4 minutes past the hour. Paul Craig Roberts joins us live from Virginia in a few minutes' time. I'm going to have some water, starting to dry up. I'm still a little bit under the weather, but feeling a darn sight better than I was yesterday. This is your Richie Allen Show, broadcasting live on Fab Radio 2 in Manchester. Triggerwarning.tv, multiple platforms, TuneIn Radio, the TuneIn app, and richieallen.co.uk. Alrighty. Okay, Back in a second then, after this.
The Richie Allen Show relies on your support. Go to richieallen.co.uk and set up a monthly donation today.
Right, Paul Craig Roberts then joins the programme in a few minutes' time. Hanging on here, I'm hanging on till 7 o'clock. In the meantime, this is U2 from 1991, even better than The Real Thing. Welcome to the programme. If you're just tuning in, even better than The Real Thing on The Richie Allen Show. The time is 8 minutes past the hour, live even on Fab Radio 2 here in Manchester. Trigger warning, of course, the TuneIn radio app and multiple platforms around the world. You are listening to verifiably Europe's most listened to independent radio show. Great to be with you this Monday evening. And I love my next guest. I love him. I love having him on. It's been a few months since he was on, in fact. He's a terrific writer, among many other things, a brilliant writer. Check out his website, paulcraigroberts.org. He's known to many of you, of course, as the former Assistant Secretary of the Treasury for Economic Policy. He was appointed by President Ronald Reagan, but he's written some brilliant books and he writes terrifically insightful articles on his website pretty much every other day. And he also, to his eternal credit, he promotes other writers and journalists by sharing their work as well. Important stuff. Check out, as I said, paulcraigroberts.org. Let's welcome back to the programme our friend Dr. Paul Craig Roberts. Paul, welcome back.
Thank you, Richie.
Great to have you on. And you know, you should be proud of me today, my friend. You should be very proud of me.
Always am.
Well, do you know why? Our clocks changed on Sunday. And you have had to bear the nuisance over the years of me getting the clock change wrong, at least twice, I think, over the years. I've let you down badly. So I need a go Richie from Paul Craig Roberts. I got it right today, thank God. And the timing is perfect. Paul, welcome back to the programme. I want to kick off with something that's very important to you, and that is the plight of the journalist Julian Assange, who's currently in Belmarsh prison in the UK. With the UK government, it doesn't give a damn about him. All the signs are that the UK government will do whatever the United States government wants to extradite Assange to the United States. I know you care deeply about him, Paul. Let's talk about Julian for a minute. Do you fear the worst for him, do you think? Is he going to be extradited?
If he lives long enough. You know, the real problem for Julian Assange is that the United States really doesn't have any valid case against him. First of all, he's not an American citizen, so he can't commit treason against America. You know, treason has to be what a citizen does against his own country. So even the false charge of treason is not applicable because he's not an American citizen. He's done nothing illegal under American law or international law. And so the case against him is just totally contrived. And they don't really want it to go to court because there may be a federal judge somewhere that the CIA hasn't yet suborned. Unlike the British magistrate who totally was in the CIA's pocket and did everything the American representatives in the British court told her to do, there might be an honest judge left in a federal court somewhere. And so they don't really want him on trial. They want him dead. And it looks like that's what the British are doing to him in this maximum security prison where he's being held. There are no charges in Britain against him. He's subject to solitary confinement, to all sorts of torture. We've had torture experts in to see him who have reported that he's being tortured, that his life's in danger. His court appearance described by John Pilger, the distinguished documentary filmmaker, shows Assange in total disarray. He can't remember his name. He can't speak. He's completely being destroyed. So I don't think he may not last. I think what the deal is that he dies in the British prison.
They want him dead.
The whole reason of his persecution by the British, they're serving the Americans, of course. The British are the puppet state of Washington and have been since the end of World War II. The whole purpose is to terrify any remaining independent journalists so that they will never again report leaks that are to the discredit of the United States government or an embarrassment to the United States government. There's to be no more journalists anywhere who dare to hold the government accountable. That's what the purpose of Assange's persecution is. It's not to bring him to justice because he's not done anything, and everybody knows that. It's to send a message. Any of you guys that have, because all the honest journalists have been driven out of the print and TV media. There's nobody in the American print and TV media who is not a CIA whore. And according to Udo Ofkadi, it's the same throughout Europe. And we know that's the situation in England. I mean, The Guardian is a joke. It's an adjunct of MI5 or MI6 or the CIA. And so this is a warning to those journalists who have taken refuge in the alternative media, who still do some investigative reporting. You had better stop or you're going to suffer the same fate, because we've now proven that you can be arrested and charged for revealing information that embarrasses the United States government. And you can expect that all the European governments, the British government and the German and French and Italian and so on, all of them will adopt this posture. In fact, the French already have, and the French, they've even now arrested Alain Sorel for simply sharing a link on his website to some video, and he's now drawn a 2-year prison sentence for simply sharing a link on his personal website. So what is going on is to close down the avenue of holding governments accountable, which is journalists who receive leaks, who receive documents showing crimes committed by their governments, and they expose that. That now is a criminal act. It has no law. Maybe they'll make some retroactive law now, but it has precedent of what they've done to Julian Assange. What they've done to Julian establishes the precedent, and its purpose is to terrify all the honest journalists that are left.
Dr. Paul Craig Roberts is our guest this hour. That's a stark reality, isn't it, for would-be journalists in UK and US universities who might have, idealistic, or they might have an idealistic vision of what they will do when they graduate. And Paul has just laid out there who would take on the establishment when you see what's happened to Julian Assange. And he did appear to be very incoherent and dishevelled and discombobulated. He appeared to be in a bad way. All the witnesses who saw his appearance in court last week testified to his mental health. It is a disgrace. Paul, I don't know how you feel about this, I'm particularly disgusted by the conduct of Jeremy Corbyn, who's supposed to be a leftist, who spent years in the anti-war movement in the UK, pro-Palestinian, anti-war, anti-Israeli imperialism, was Jeremy Corbyn. I don't have to tell you about him, you know who he is. And he's the leader of the Labour Party, Her Majesty's opposition. He's got a very, very powerful voice, at least for the moment, Paul. He hasn't breathed a word about the situation Julian Assange finds himself in. That does shock me, I must say. But you might call me naive.
Well, you can look at it in different ways. For example, he may know by now that the success of the American, British, Swedish propaganda against Assange is so complete that if he says anything in his defense, it makes him look like a kook or a Russian agent. And he's probably already accused of being an anti-Semite and whatever else. And so there's probably a limit to how much he wants to receive brickbats. So we can take that for granted. At least that has happened to him. It may also be he's simply been turned. The power and the money of the CIA is notorious. They can buy anybody they want. They can buy them with threats. They can buy them with money. They own the world. They own all the politicians in Europe. They own all of the media, the press, and they may simply have told him, "Shut up, or else you're next."
Or you're next. You've written
Anything he could do about it, and he knows it. He knows it. If they want to get rid of him, they can have him. If they can do any, look what they've done. You know, they murdered the what was the guy's name? Kelly.
Dr. David Kelly. Yes, Dr. David Kelly.
They murdered him, and there wasn't, and they broke all of the laws. You know, there wasn't even a coroner's report. And then they staged that fake thing about Putin poisoning the former defected KGB agent. That was all staged. So no one knows to this day what happened to that couple. Have they ever been released? Or has anyone seen them? You know what I'm talking about?
Of course, that's right. The Skripal poisoning, yeah.
Yeah. See, what's become of them? They've just they've disappeared. This was all a hoax. They got away with that. So you know what? A politician is powerless. He doesn't have secret services to combat the secret services operating against him, and so on. And so, I think what you simply see today is the intelligence services. They built up tremendous power during the Cold War. They had the Russian threat, and that justified enormous powers that MI5, MI6, CIA, all of them accumulated. And they really determine it's their agenda. A politician is nothing. He can't get in their way. And if they do, they kill him, like they killed John F. Kennedy. They assassinated Nixon politically with the Watergate hoax, and everybody still believes Watergate. This was a CIA way of getting him out of office because they couldn't kill him right on top of Kennedy. People were suspicious about Kennedy. We saw the attack on Reagan. We still don't know. That doesn't make any sense any more than the Oswald attack on Kennedy. You know, some guy shoots Reagan because he's trying to impress some movie star. Well, I mean, why would that impress a movie star? It's scared to death.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And we've had this American admiral calling for a military coup against Trump. So these people, they have the power. Jerry Corbyn hasn't got any power.
Paul, you wrote a brilliant article on your website, paulcraigroberts.org, about this. It was only published yesterday. You have to read this, folks. I'll tweet the exact link to the article, but if you go to paulcraigroberts.org, the end of accountable government is close at hand. And Paul charts, and you are a great writer, Paul, because you can do it, using 5 or 6 words where others take, 50 words. You can use 5 or 6 paragraphs where others use 100. It really is good stuff, very succinct. Paul has written about the CIA's determination over the last 7 decades to undermine the free press, not just in the United States, but also around the world. It's a must-read piece. It really is. It's great work, Paul. And you talk about, you go back to Bernstein, writing in Rolling Stone magazine in the 70s. He was warning people that the CIA was bankrolling press services around the world, English and foreign language ones as well. It's great, great work, Paul, It really is. People need to understand, they need to know this stuff. But I think the vast majority of people don't know. They get their news from whichever side tells them what they want to hear. So they might watch CNN because they like the message. They might watch Fox because they like the message. Sky News in the UK because they like the message.
The message is all the same.
It's all the same. That's right. But it's written in such a way that it speaks to people in a way that makes them think that they're on the right side. Isn't that right?
Well, it could be. But the CIA controls the message. There's no independent media anywhere in the West. Look, Udo Ukof's book is now available in English.
Yeah.
It was printed in German. It was a bestseller. There was supposed to be an English edition, and all of a sudden it stopped. and you could buy a copy or two on Amazon for $1,000. A few copies that got out before it was destroyed and stopped. But now there's a new English publisher, and it's available. And the book's for sale on Amazon for $39. I don't know what would be for Amazon England, but that's here. So the book's now available, and he, of course, was with the largest German newspaper. And he says his whole life he was publishing stories CIA handed him to publish. And he said, this is true of all the journalists in Europe. We all do this. And he describes how they're cultivated and how they get obligated and why they cooperate. And it's just, you can't be a journalist if you don't. If you don't serve the CIA's control over explanations, you literally cannot be a journalist anywhere in England or Europe or the United States. And he makes that clear. And people should, he gives a confession. People should read this. Maybe they would finally come out of this stupor and understand that they are losing any prospect of any privacy, any liberty, freedom, any civil liberty. They are quickly descending into the age of tyranny, because tyranny is what you get when you can't hold governments accountable. The entirety of American freedom was based on the media holding the government accountable. We were supposed to have a dispersed and independent media. Under Clinton, it was concentrated into 6 hands. It's no independence. And even before that, the CIA, through Operation Mockingbird, had all kinds of assets, agents, serving in the media. And they could plant any story and control any explanation. And they did, and they are, and they do. And this is available. You can see this before it's all taken down. I don't know how this publisher managed to get this English edition of Udo Ulkafi's book out. I would imagine it's going to be somehow sequestered and collected up and burnt as well. It's not the kind of story the CIA wants out.
No, it's called, you're right, it's called Prostitutes in English, recently published, and it has been very difficult to get. You're right to point out that it's on Amazon at the moment. This is Udo Ulfkotte, the German journalist. Paul has described him in his article brilliantly, who blew the whistle on the fact that he was basically told, he was fed what to print and what to write by the Central Intelligence Agency, and basically said it's not just me, it's everybody else. Dr. Paul Craig Roberts is our guest. That article can be read at paulcraigroberts.org. I know you've been on to Paul's website, but if you haven't, do check it out. Like I said, succinct, well-written articles, and it's it's very important that you can share this information with people who don't know this stuff and let them have a look at it. That kind of segues, Paul. It's 26 minutes past the hour here, 26 minutes past 6 here in Manchester in the UK. We're on the line with the great Dr. Paul Craig Roberts. That segues nicely into the media response to stories. Look, the big story over the last couple of days is the US government's claim that, I can never pronounce the full name, it's Bakr al-Baghdadi, the alleged leader of Islamic State, that he was killed by a US-led operation on Saturday night in Syria. And a number of details were given about the raid and about the behaviour of al-Baghdadi and children being killed and stuff like this. Now, I'm not saying that it didn't happen. How, in the name of God, could I possibly know? But I am mindful of the fact, yet again, Paul, today and yesterday when the President was given his statement about it, his briefing, nobody's asking any challenging questions about it. There isn't any scepticism being expressed by the press. Nobody's asking, could we have maybe nabbed, pinched this guy, al-Baghdadi, and brought him back to the US for questioning? It's just this story that's very similar to the story about Osama bin Laden being killed, and again, only a year out from a general election. I just wonder, are you sceptical yourself about the story about the assassination of al-Baghdadi, Paul, or what do you think?
I don't believe anything in the media.
Yeah.
Nothing they say. And furthermore, I don't think this story is worth any attention. You know, what we should be focused on is Julian Assange. Now, somebody in England has drafted an appeal to the House of Lords, the House of Commons, the Queen of England, to issue a pardon of Julian Assange or get him out of this tortured death that he's in. And they didn't know what to do with it or whatever. I published it yesterday on my website, and I said, look, there are millions of people that read this website. If you'll all sign this petition, millions, we can, if we can't get him out, we can at least embarrass the criminal British government for what they're doing to him. You should be sending people to this website to sign that petition. And every alt news website should put this petition up. I mean, we could get tens of millions of signatures from all over the world.
I've just tweeted it. I've put it out now. Your article with the petition there, I've put it out there, paulcraigroberts.org.
Because, look, if we can't save Julian Assange, we can't do anything. We can't save ourselves. We're helpless. If we can't stop this criminal murder of the last real journalist, we're impotent. We don't even have any right to be free anymore. So everything should be focused on stopping what they're doing to Julian Assange. Because he's us. If he goes, we're going with him. There's no if or but about that. It's the end of free speech, of a free press, of any ability to hold governments accountable. If people don't understand that and they can't get mobilized by that, and they can't do something about it, there's an opportunity. Everybody's website should have this petition. We could stop it. Or if we can't stop it, we could embarrass the British government so bad it would make it clear that the so-called democracy could care less about what people think.
I hear you loud and clear, and I endorse that. I've put a link out to the petition, and if I can get it on my own website, which I have no doubt I will be able to do, even though I don't manage it, I'll do that as well. I agree with you. It is more important than the al-Baghdadi thing, but the Syria thing is obviously something we've spoken about before. Let's stay with Assange then, because I think you're right. I think you're wrong when you say he's the last journalist. You're a journalist. Your writing is excellent and succinct. You are.
Look, just a minute. We are not journalists in the way that Assange is. People inside the governments who have security clearances, who see wrongdoing, they leak to him. They give him this information.
Yeah.
They don't do that to me or to you. He has the credibility. He had the ability to get it worldwide. We don't. Not like WikiLeaks could. So he is an investigative journalist with the resources that we don't have. And nobody's going to leak to me or to you because they don't. I mean, why would they? We're not known for investigative journalism or this sort of thing. We give analysis. We try to tell people what's going on or give them an alternative view to the official view. But I don't have any moles in the CIA or the FBI or the State Department anywhere leaking to me the vast multitude of crimes committed by my government. And you don't have leaks from about the vast multitude of crimes committed by the British government. I mean, we're talking about both of these are criminal organizations.
Yeah, gangsters, yeah.
And so in this sense, Assange is. He's the last one. We had in America. We had a couple. We had Chris Hedges and Bob Perry. And Perry suddenly died. He had a website, Consortium News, and both of these guys were known as the principal investigative reporters at one time for the New York Times. Now, of course, the New York Times no longer has investigative reporters. No American newspaper does. They're simply not tolerated. And so they went, to the net, to the internet. Well, Bob Pear's dead. Chris Hedges is still there, but he's got an RT station, so he's now disqualified as a Russian agent. So you see, there's not any journalist. I mean, we're journalists in the sense of analysis, or look, here's a different take on what they're telling you, but we're not Julian Assange. We're not getting all troves of secrets leaked to us, showing the United States' government as a criminal organization, commits massive war crimes, lies and deceives its allies, spies on the personal cell phones of the Chancellor of Germany, the Prime Minister of England, and so forth and so on.
Let me argue with you. I love arguing with you. It doesn't get me very far, but I'm going to argue with you anyway. And I have great admiration for Assange and for your characterization of him. But I've been a journalist for years. I've worked in the mainstream, and you talked about in your excellent article, you talked about good journalists leaving the mainstream and going into independent media or going online. Let me just make an argument. Thank God for Julian Assange and for the leaks, the information leaked by WikiLeaks. I would never try to diminish that. But at the same time, I left commercial and national media because I was being prevented from asking the questions that we've been talking about. These are questions I wasn't allowed to ask. These are things we wanted to do. I was asking questions on local, commercial, and then national radio that weren't comfortable. And you were doing the same thing. Our problem is, right, we might not be Julian Assange. People might not give us loads of secret documents. But you're one of the most articulate, sharp-minded, sharp-brained, brilliant writers I've ever met. If you got to go to press briefings, Paul, you'd cause carnage. But you're precluded. You're prevented from doing that. That's the problem. Exactly. That's right. The bloody problem, right? I'm not saying that I'm Assange. I'm not. But I was a very good journalist in another way. But I couldn't do it. All of a sudden, you can't. Sorry, you're not welcome anymore. You can't ask that question.
You're not arguing with me. You're just proving my point.
Yeah.
They won't tolerate us. So we're not journalists. We're not allowed at press briefings. We're not allowed to express our opinion on the BBC or CNN or National Public Radio. I mean, I can't even write for my own former newspaper. I was editor of the Wall Street Journal. I couldn't even get a letter to the editor printed. I used to be on American television continuously, all the time. I was on the BBC. But the minute you get off of the CIA's agenda, you're finished.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you're right. I mean, we are good journalists in the sense that we can explain to people what's going on pretty accurately, but we are not tolerated as journalists. So we have to operate you on radio. I don't quite know how they haven't shut you down, and me on a personal internet site. I wouldn't even try to get into social media.
Well,
if I tried to get on Facebook or Twitter,
you'd have been gone. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd just be endless shutdown.
Well, because of your profile, you'd have an enormous amount of followers on Facebook, so they'd have to shut it down. What's happening in the UK now will be of interest to you. Loan operators like me, for the moment, we're allowed to do what it is we do. Now, I present to all intents and purposes, a professional commercial radio show out of a home-built studio, and it is taken live by some different platforms and some different radio stations. At the moment, the UK government cannot do anything about that, but it plans to, because it's announced that it wants to regulate this online market, because apparently we've got an unfair advantage. Because if the commercial radio stations need to have a license, well, why can Richie Allen make his career doing his own radio show on his own? Why is he exempt from our regulation? And the reason we get away with it up until this point is because we are lone operators, because I'm not part of a schedule of programming on a commercial radio station. But they're coming after us. Next year, the plans are to revisit licensing in the country and to come after the online operators and say, okay, you guys need to have a license. The problem with that is that The license doesn't cost very much money, Paul. But once you accept that you have to have a license, otherwise they'll shut you down. When you are licensed, they can then phone you up every few weeks and say, we've had a complaint. We've had a complaint. You're in breach of a certain guideline.
You don't have to tell me this.
I know, you know this. I'm boring you. This is the way it's going to go. Yeah, exactly. This is where we're going to go. So all we can do is...
It's worse than that, Richie, because with Julian Assange, say what they're really getting him for is embarrassing the government. Now, even though we don't have any leaks, our explanations embarrass the government. Yeah. So we're right there in the same target. Once they get Assange, they can get us. See, they're not really after him because he's published something that has always been legal in the United States. For example, the New York Times published the Pentagon Papers. Yeah. Not only that, both the New York Times and the Guardian published the information that Julian Assange released. The stuff that they claim Assange did was also done by the Times and the Guardian, because when he got all that information, he shared it with those newspapers, and they published a lot of it. But they're not going after them. They're going after Assange, and they're making the point, he embarrassed us. He's finished. Anybody who embarrasses us is finished, and that will apply to you and me.
That's an excellent point you just made there. I hadn't considered it, but those newspapers did the same thing that Assange did. He was given information by insiders. He published it. They published that information. They did the same thing as him, but because they're protected presumably by their newspapers or
no, they're not protected. The MI5 or MI6 they went to the Guardian, made them hand over all the documents that
they did, of course.
Had given them, smashed their hard drives and their computers, and told them, now from now on, you report to us. You're no longer a newspaper, and that's exactly what the Guardian does.
That's right.
And the New York Times, we know for a total fact, is a CIA asset, just like the Washington Post. They've always been, but now they're totally CIA assets. They are not newspapers. They've ceased to be newspapers. They are propaganda organs that allow the ruling elite to control the explanations. Thus, you see, they went overboard with all the Russiagate hoax, and now the Ukraine hoax, and it's always that way. So the main newspapers have always been agents of the intelligence agencies. They've always been. This includes the British newspapers. So it's not that they're protected. They just now understand that they have to serve that master. They don't serve independent news reporting. They don't serve the facts or the truth. They serve the explanations that the elite want the American people and the European people and the British people fed. And if they don't do that, then they're going to get the same treatment as Julian Assange.
So here's the inevitable question then. And this is speculation now, and I'm sure, you can, if you don't want to go there, but I'll ask you anyway. The big online giants like Facebook and Twitter, they must be equally controlled by the intelligence agencies.
Yes, I'm convinced they were funded with the CIA money.
Get us all over there. And let us think that we're over there.
And I would say the same thing about Google and Amazon. Yeah. I believe it's also true of Amazon. Amazon now has been awarded a $10 billion NSA or CIA contract to develop all the information capabilities for the American security industry. Where did these people come from? Where did this Amazon guy come from? Where did the Google guy come from? It's kind of like this Epstein, the pedophile guy who was blackmailing all the Western leaders and apparently members of the British royal family. Where did he come from? All of a sudden, these people appear and they're billionaires. Nobody knows anything. Where did they come from? Where did they get the money from?
Out of the blue, yeah.
It's just out of the blue. And they got monopolies. They got monopolies, and they're critical monopolies. Amazon, Google, Facebook, Twitter. And what does Facebook and Twitter do? They take down everything that's against the establishment's point of view. I just read the other day that Facebook had now eliminated another 100,000. No, that YouTube is, of course, they're owned by Google now, right?
Yeah.
YouTube just took down 100,000 videos. So, yeah, this is all. These are all creatures of the intelligence services. I'm certain of that. I can't prove it, but why wouldn't it be? Or why would the intelligence services, when they can control the print and TV news, why wouldn't they also control these things?
Yeah, I don't believe the Zuckerberg story. It's a very convenient story.
Yeah.
The background, I don't buy any of it. Dr. Paul Craig Roberts is our guest. Patricia is listening to this with great interest in Zurich. And she says, you didn't have any luck, Richie, but I'm going to try Paul. You can't say no to the ladies, Paul. Patricia says, really interesting to hear Paul's opinion on Julian Assange. I would like to get his opinion on the alleged murder of the ISIS guy, Baghdadi. Now, Paul did, to be fair, Paul already said he wouldn't believe a word that's printed by the mainstream media. But she asked specifically, do you think that Trump organised it? Why didn't the Democrats know about it? Is it one of those that is a bit of electioneering, maybe a bit suspicious? Do you want to answer that, Paul? I say hesitantly. Go on. What do you think?
I have no idea, and I don't even know why it matters. I mean, why does it matter? Look, when Obama claimed that they had killed bin Laden, that was 10 years after bin Laden was already dead.
Yeah.
I published on my website all the obituaries in December of 2001.
That's right.
They were all over the Middle East, Egypt. Even Fox News had bin Laden's obituary. He died of renal failure.
Yeah, that's right.
And 10 years later, they claim he's still alive. You know where? He's got no dialysis machine. Nobody lives 10 years who's got renal failure.
No.
And they claim that they killed him 10 years later. So, I mean, if they can get away with that, they can get away with any kind of lie. So I doubt Trump had anything to do with this claim. I don't know who made the claim or why. Maybe it was the military trying to make them look good, that they've done something. Maybe some Republican operative said, hey, we can pull the same stunt Obama pulled with bin Laden. We can claim that Trump's got this guy dead, and maybe this will somehow make Americans think he's good and he's done something. Who knows? It can come from any sort of place. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. Absolutely.
The Special Operations Force wants to say, well, look, we earned our keep. We got this guy. You just don't know. There's so many people have agendas and purposes to be served by making claims. It could be true. It could have been an accident. Well, they may have thought they were bombing a hospital and got this guy.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. It's ridiculous.
No way to know. Yeah.
No, there's no way to know. Just before we finish up today, thanks for coming back on, by the way, Paul. We love having you on. Paul's website is paulcraigroberts.org. I know you know this, but you can subscribe there and do support the independent media. I'm asking you to do that. When you've got writers like Paul and websites as professionally produced as his, and the fact that he promotes other writers and other investigative journalists as well, do support it by writing a check when you can or sending a few bucks when you can. paulcraigroberts.org. I don't think I've asked you this before. Final question, and you can dismiss this if you want. What motivates you, Paul? Because you still have this sense of outrage, which I love. And I'm not patronising you now. I'm not saying because you're older than I am. I'm not patronising you at all. But what keeps the fires burning? What motivates you to write these articles and to do what you do every day?
Truth. If people don't know the truth, they can't be free. And, freedom in the Western sense is really a new thing. The notion that the government is accountable to law, accountable to the people. This is a new idea in terms of history. Basically originated in England, and it got distributed to the colonies. And it's being lost, it's being destroyed. And so what then is a person? Is just some kind of adjunct to whatever the ruler. He's nothing. He's got no protection of law. See, they're turning law into law is supposed to be a shield of the people. Instead, it's being turned into a weapon in the hands of the government. That's what we see with Assad. He has no protection of law. They've taken all the protection of law away from this guy, and they're using law as a weapon against him. That's the old way of doing things prior to the British Glorious Revolution, prior to the American Constitution. So freedom and the fact that a person is a person in his own right and not some sort of lowly subject of some ruling class. This is unique in history. It came out of England, it went into the colonies, and now it's being destroyed. Well, how can we let something this great of achievement, this precious, be destroyed? But we are. The people are insouciant, they're indifferent, they're indoctrinated, they're brainwashed. I still get letters from idiot feminists who say, well, Assad should be punished. He raped those girls. Well, of course, he didn't rape anybody. But suppose he did. Why would you give up civil liberty of all of us just to punish Assad?
Yeah.
It shows how stupid these people are. You see what I'm saying? They're mindless. And they're losing their very essence. Their soul is draining out as Assad goes. And that's what motivates me. You can't get this back. If you lost it, how are you going to get it back? Particularly in an era of identity politics where the ruling class has everybody at each other's throats. There's no unity. There's no ability to stand against the government. The blacks are too busy hating the whites. And so on, and the women hating the men, and the transgenders, and the whatever, it's so much disunity.
Division, yeah.
There's no ability to stand up to a government. The various groups are busy hating each other, fighting each other. Well, this frees the government. So yeah, it's easy to see. I mean, this is what motivates. I mean, I've got children, grandchildren, they're going to grow up slaves. Their mind will be controlled by the explanations. It's just like I said in my column that you referred people to, that I wrote the other day. We are at the same place that people in George Orwell's 1984 are. Big Brother has complete control over everything they think. And that's where we are. And that's what they use the press for. And the TV. And it's what and we already have a lot of internet sites that are run by the elite. All the big ones full of money. You know what they are.
Yeah, of course.
There are a lot of big internet sites. Where did all that money come from? How are they getting this money when I don't have that kind of luck getting money? And all this stuff is to control the explanation, to combat us. And these sites have cachet that we don't have. Let's go to Salon, let's go to HuffPost. All of these types of sites. This is all security service or some elite elements funding this. How do you have so many paid people? So many different writers, all this. It's just, it's not believable. So they're already operating in the internet. They may not have to do anything to us except just smother us out. They'll have so many of their own internet sites. And then Google simply doesn't list us, so nobody can find us.
Yeah, but you get up every day and you say, not on my watch, which I think is an amazing thing. Because I do. But you,
as long as I have a watch, yeah. But there'll come a day I'll get up and my site won't be there, and I search for it, and Google can't produce where it is. So they can do that whenever they want.
Well, we do know. We do
Google,
know. Yeah. Sorry, Paul. Go ahead.
Google already makes it hard to find sites they disapprove of. There are a lot of sites you have a hard time finding them now. So maybe some other systems will catch on other than Google. Who knows? I would have thought that the Russians and the Chinese would have done something like that just to get freedom of the press out. But apparently not. I guess the Chinese are more afraid of freedom of the press than the CIA is. But you would think that would be the way for them to prevail, to defeat us, is just by having freedom of the press, because there are more facts on their side than on our side.
That is a whole discussion, sincerely, for another day. That's that really is, actually. We could spend another half an hour talking about what's happening with.
Well, let's do it one day.
No, seriously, of course we will. Paul's website is paulcraigroberts.org. I don't need to tell you that. Many of our listeners, they've known about Paul for a long time. Former editor of the Wall Street Journal, brilliant author, and of course the former Assistant Secretary of the Treasury for Economic Policy, a distinguished guest on the Richie Allen Show today. Thanks, Paul, for your time today. I really appreciate it, and I know that we'll catch up again this side of Christmas with your permission. I know you get asked to do a lot of these interviews, but if you can fit us in before Christmas, always great to have you back.
Of course, Richie, I can always fit you in. You're my favorite guy.
You're a gentleman, sir. Thanks for your help today, Paul. Have a brilliant rest of your Monday. And I'm still really, really pleased that I didn't screw up the timings after we put the clock back, which I've done every year. And you always get it. It's never anybody else but you. Paul, thanks so much. All the best. Speak soon. And bye for now. The brilliant Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, live on the Richie Allen Show this Monday, October 28th, 2019. Former editor of the Wall Street Journal and US Assistant Secretary of the Treasury for Economic Policy. Isn't that a disturbing and sad thing to hear? Can't get a column on the Wall Street Journal. Doesn't any longer get invited to take part in panel discussions about geopolitical events. Doesn't get a phone call. Hey, Paul, we haven't heard from you in a while. Reagan's man for the Treasury, top man, the Wall Street Journal. Let's get you into the studio, Paul. I know you'll have a different opinion on what's being said about the CIA or about Israel's influence in America or about Syria. No, that's the way it is. Listen, that's it for today's programme. I'm going to go and rest the old voice ahead of tomorrow. Thanks so much to Victoria Haigh in the first hour. Thanks to Vicki. Very profound and very important stuff. And again, thanks to Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, who joined us there from his home in Virginia. Close the programme out today with George Michael. I looked for freedom. This is what I got, right? This is what I got. I do love this song. Bye.